let's start with that first book, and Consequences of Sin, and read us a section of that, and that will, I think, put the icing on our description of Ursula.
Great, and this is actually the section where Ursula is on her way to see Winifred, who has phoned her early in the morning to say that her female lover is beside her dead, and she doesn't remember anything about what happened. Ursula held on tightly as the cab thundered its way down the dimly lit streets. A fine mist of rain was beginning to fall. The street lamps along Piccadilly Circus cast a luminous glow in the fog. A delivery cart made its way alongside them, its dark-coated driver hunched over in the cold. After what seemed like hours, they turned onto Great Russell Street, past the imposing colonnades of the south front of the British Museum, and drove down Montague Street. The wheels grated against the pavement as they came to halt outside a familiar white Georgian terrace house. The gas lamp on the street corner glowed hazily in the damp fog, but there were no lights on in the house. Ursula had come here many times for meetings of the Women's Social and Political Union, but only during the day. At night, it all looked alien and strange. Ursula met Winifred at one of the first WSPU meetings she attended, held in the Queen's Hall. Although she knew her by sight from Somerville College, their paths rarely crossed. By the time Ursula went up to Oxford, Winifred was already in her final year, and her reputation as a radical was firmly established. As Ursula sat listening to Winifred lecture on the rise of the Women's Cooperative Guild, she had felt decidedly conspicuous in her fur-trimmed coat and hat. Her father's name was, after all, synonymous with oppression of the workers, as Winifred so often put it. She felt the same conspicuousness tonight as she alighted from the cab. Her world was about to collide with Winifred's, and she wasn't sure now she was at all prepared for the consequences. She had forgotten her hat and her gloves. The late autumn wind chilled her to the bone. No doubt she looked ridiculous standing there in the early hours of the morning, her hair still coiled in the loose plait she wore at night. Ursula had spent most of her childhood being cosseted against the weather out of fear that she too might succumb to the consumption that had claimed her mother. It eventually became almost instinctive that she rebel against such protectiveness. She regretted that impulse now and shivered. What was she doing here? "Are you going to be all right, love?" the cabbie asked. "Don't look like there's no one home if you ask me." "I'll be fine," Ursula replied with a smile and reached into her purse to pay him. The cabbie looked unconvinced. "Truly," Ursula reassured him, handing him the coins. He took them and tipped his cap, muttering something under his breath about these modern women. Ursula stepped back quickly from the curb as he drove off. She walked up and tentatively rang the doorbell, hearing its distinctive metallic clang echo through the seemingly deserted rooms. She wondered if Winifred was sitting upstairs waiting in the dark. Ursula had never been upstairs, but her imagination was quite capable of conjuring up a terrible and macabre scene. The hallway and living room, which she had seen many a time, remained silent and dark. There was no sound or movement. Ursula hesitated, then rang the bell again. Dark imaginings stirred within her. Perhaps something far worse had occurred since that hurried phone call, which now seemed a lifetime ago. The door opened suddenly, and Ursula quickly entered. Winifred stood holding a thick yellow candle. Wax dripped onto her hand, but she didn't seem to notice. "It's upstairs." She spoke hoarsely. "Can you bear to tell me what happened?" Ursula whispered, putting her purse down on the hall stand. "That's the most awful thing about it all," Winifred answered. "I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what happened. I don't remember anything."